From almost pushing his colleagues off their chairs after Israel Adesanya's win to literally fangirling over his impressive fight, it was a whole mixed bag of emotions for Joe Rogan at UFC 287. He even got pretty emotional about Jorge Masvidal's farewell speech. But the biggest takeaway from the night was how Israel Adesanya shook the whole of the MMA world, and Rogan can't get enough of it. I mean, the man was so absorbed at the moment following Izzy's win that he almost knocked off his colleagues. You guys have all seen Rogan's reaction clips when he's commentating because they've been the subject of a lot of memes. But he took it even further this time around. After the last stylebender knocked Pereira out, the UFC colorcaster can be seen trying to push John Anik and Daniel Cormier off of their seats, and he even almost succeeded. I doubt he even realized what he was doing, but he was just so caught up with what he'd witnessed. Keep in mind, moving DC out of his chair is tough too. The man is a former two-division champion and was once a heavyweight.
And then he clinches. Exactly what you gotta do.
But that didn't seem to be of any significance to Rogan. He just kept screaming, "That is one of the greatest knockouts I've seen in my life." And coming from a seasoned commentator like Joe, that means a lot. He's been in the fight business for decades, and during all his years, he's seen some of the best athletes in the world, including some of the best knockouts ever. So to put Izzy's win right up there indicates that Rogan just loved it. That's not all though, because there's a lot of mutual respect between these two. Rogan has on several occasions admired how Izzy carries himself inside and outside the octagon, and Adesanya has returned the favor as well. He has admitted in the past that he was starstruck when he first met Joe Rogan, and it took him 2 to 3 meetings before he could really get over it. The respect these guys have for each other is just beautiful.
Joe Rogan is one of the nicest, coolest, humble I've had the pleasure of working with.
So it was only fitting that Rogan would be the one to interview Adesanya. Izzy was practically giddy with the win. He said that it was the best feeling in the world, and he hopes that everyone out there gets to experience it once in their lifetime.
Every one of you behind the screens on this arena can feel this level of happiness just one time in your life.
But he is blessed because he gets to experience this thing time and time again. Joe then directed the conversation toward this being the sweetest moment for him ever, and Izzy agreed. He said that revenge is sweet, and he's got a bit of a sweet tooth.
They say revenge is sweet, and if you know me, I got a sweet tooth. You already know this is sweet.
Rogan also threw a curveball in there, questioning the last stylebender about how he felt after finally winning against one of his greatest rivals, given that the Potan had beaten him thrice prior to UFC 287. It was good to see that the Kiwi Nigerian was humble, and he praised Pereira. He admitted that the Brazilian forced him to work harder and be better in his camp. Izzy also said that Alex will always be a great champion and a great fighter.
Even no matter what, Alex is a great champion, no matter what. He lost the belt tonight, but he will always be a champion.
But Adesanya has no idea how he won. He did say that he played possum for a bit, covering up his face and tricking Pereira into thinking he was hurt before unleashing a flurry of counterpunches that found their mark. Adesanya knew one thing for certain, though. That last hammer fist had everything. He said how he had been waiting to land that one since 2017, and when the moment presented itself, he didn't hold back. I don't really think that was necessary, by the way. Pereira was already out when he hit the canvas, but I suppose Izzy had to vent out all these emotions he'd bottled up for so many years. I guess that's why Adesanya also shot 3 arrows at Alex after winning the fight, and that's why he also mocked Pereira's son. The last stylebender later admitted that it was petty, and that he only did it because the Brazilian son mocked him inside the ring when he got knocked out during their second meeting in Glory. He's only a kid, though. I'm not sure why Izzy had to do that. Even Pereira was a little confused by that. He said that when his son did that, he was 5 years old at the time. He didn't understand what he was doing back then because just like any other child, he just thought it was funny. The Potan also revealed that his son wanted to repeat it when he knocked out Adesanya in the UFC to become the champion, but he stopped him from doing that again. Pereira also said that if he was in Izzy's place, he'd never mock a child, but he understands if the new champion wants to do that, because apparently it brings peace to to him. Izzy may have won back his title, and he might even be one of the best middleweights in the history of the sport.
Left hook counter. Again, Izzy lands. Look. Boom! Left hook right on the chin.
But these antics really seem immature. He's a world champ, for crying out loud. Why does he have to stoop to the level kid? But he wasn't the only one who got a lot of flack that night. Joe Rogan was on the receiving end of some hate as well. You see, guys, some fans weren't all that pleased with his take on Izzy's win. They thought that the UFC colorcaster was biased toward the Kiwi Nigerian, and that he tried washing away Pereira's 3 wins over Adesanya with a single knockout. Things got really heated when a fan told Rogan to already, and another guy told him to keep riding that Izzy D. Another one claimed that he could feel Joe's tighty-whitey getting all wet talking about the last style bender. But not everyone was spewing hate like that. Some of the fans were a lot more logical with their disapproval of Rogan's casting. A guy said that the 55-year-old has always been a prisoner of the moment, and that everything is always the best or the greatest for him. You've got to admit that sometimes Rogan releases a lot of bandwagon energy when he just tries to overhype the moment. That might not be the case at UFC 287 because that knockout and the backstory behind it was awesome.
Bang! Look at that right hand. Bang again. Left hook behind it. Out cold. Hammer fist.
But the fan sentiment in this regard is kind of understandable. People were also quick to remind him that Pereira had won 3 of the matches these guys fought in, and that Izzy was also given the 8 count when the Potan knocked Izzy out in kickboxing. You have to wait and see if these guys decide to throw it down once again inside the octagon. But for now, nothing seems to be certain in the top 5 of the middleweight division. Even Dana White was reluctant to make the trilogy fight between Izzy and Alex in the UFC, and he ended up saying that the Brazilian probably wants to move up to light heavyweight.
Honestly, I think that Pereira probably moves to 205 after this fight.
Anyway, Izzy's knockout to reclaim his throne wasn't the only thing that excited Rogan that night. He was impressed by Christian Rodriguez's performance as well. The comparatively veteran fighter kept his cool and bounced back after a very promising opening round by Raul Rosas Jr. Rogan was particularly appreciative of the composure Rodriguez showed to secure the unanimous decision. Just like that, Rosas' hype train was derailed. But the moment that stole the show for Rogan, and for almost everyone around in the arena, was Masvidal's retirement. Following the loss to Gilbert Burns, Gamebred decided to hang up his gloves. This was moving for the 55-year-old because he has seen the Miami native evolve into a legend in front of his eyes, and the MMA community is always going to miss him. That's how Joe Rogan reacted to the events of UFC 287.